Good evening and welcome to Election Playbook. If you've just joined us, please press the like button. On this show, we look at the election landscape. We did that yesterday, and we have in studio with us two analysts, Acie Lumumba and Agency Gumbo. Now, we just want to know, first of all, if you can hear us. Just in the comments, just tell us that the sound is loud and clear and you can hear us. Yesterday, we had a poll. We wanted to know who was winning between our two debaters. It was hearts if you liked what Agency was saying or you were supporting Agency's party, and it was likes if you liked Acie Lumumba. Now, let me just give you some feedback on yesterday. Agency was ahead with 300 hearts. 301 hearts, and Acie had 185. So the debate continues, and today we want to know who wins this debate tonight. In studio, welcome, gentlemen, Acie Lumumba and Agency Gumbo.
Thank you for having me.
Well,
I hope they confirm they can hear you.
Oh, yes. Let me just have a look. We have people watching from all over. We want to know from you where you're watching from. As usual, your feedback is important. We want to hear your views, your comments, your contribution, and most importantly, whether you're going to vote and who you're going to vote for. Are you Team ED or are you Team Chamisa? But in studio, you still get to choose which team you're on. So as I said before, it's hearts for Agency Gumbo and likes for Lumumba. Gentlemen, now today we had several things going on our election playfield. We had the rally for Nelson Chamisa, and coming up we're going to discuss ED in South Africa with the BRICS leaders. So as we progress, we'll also look at what's coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow is the mother of all rallies. We've got ZANU-PF who are having a rally at the National Sports Stadium. And then we've got the MDC at Robert Mugabe Square. We're going to start by looking at that. Acie, what's your take? What's going on tomorrow? Harare is going to be on fire.
Yeah, so I think, tomorrow is the climax of the political campaigns. What you have taking place is Nelson Chamisa is going to have the biggest rally that MDC has ever had. I have absolutely no doubt. This will be the single largest rally that MDC has ever had, and that will be tomorrow. So I understand and agree when they say it is the mother of all rallies that they have had. Emmerson Mnangagwa is going to have a rally too at the National Sports Stadium. Is it the mother of all rallies? No, I don't think that's the idea. I think it's just them putting a nip in the bud to conclude the ZANU-PF rallies. Will he fill the National Sports Stadium? Absolutely. I mean, he's been feeling it a lot since he became president for all manner of functions that he has done. So both parties are saying close curtain on their campaigns. I think they've both run very, very good campaigns to the best of their abilities. I think ED surprised a lot. I think Chamisa surprised a lot. And tomorrow they shut it down. And then our job really begins, because when they keep quiet, we start figuring out what the work they... It's Shamaka, my exam. My exam tomorrow. So looking forward to it. I will attend both. I will attend the MDC rally. I'm also going to attend the ZANU-PF rally.
Agency, tomorrow, with just 3 days to go, and all the campaigns are being wrapped up tomorrow by midnight, we're going to shut down the campaigns. So how are you seeing tomorrow? Because we've got the MDC at Robert Mugabe Square, and then we've got ZANU-PF at the National Sports Stadium.
Well, so like you indicated, all political party campaigns end 12 midnight. So tomorrow basically resembles the final push for all political parties that are contesting here. But, well, the major mention, of course, will be ZANU-PF and the MDC alliance. The MDC alliance has been known, even during the days of Morgan Richard Tsvangirai, to always deliver a very effective final punch in its electoral campaigns. And I'm not very sure and confident about ZANU-PF's choice of venue. The National Sports Stadium, I think, is going to be an embarrassment for ZANU-PF, considering, number one, that Harare has never been ZANU-PF's strong point in as far as rallies and crowds are concerned. Tomorrow is also going to be a confidence booster for the people that follow Nelson Chamisa, because I can guarantee you that Robert Mugabe Square is going to be filled to capacity. If anything, because people are going to come and witness the final message from the president of Zimbabwe, the incoming president of Zimbabwe. So the message that Nelson Chamisa is going to deliver tomorrow is basically a summation of, the message that he has articulated across the nation over these 75 plus rallies. So it's a big day in Zimbabwean politics. It's actually a big day before the biggest day, which is Monday, the 30th.
Agency, there's something that I want to comment from you on, and this is with regards to women. On social media today, there were messages going around saying that ED wants to know, he wants to speak to the women and what are your concerns and so on. And various platforms were saying, submit your concerns as women. Do you think that tomorrow that could lure women to go to ED's rally? And do you think that perhaps Nelson Chamisa tomorrow also needs to pay special attention to women? What do you think? Because most people have criticized him as far as women are concerned, and having, even in all his press conferences, really there haven't been many women in sight there in his leadership. Do you think that perhaps tomorrow, as he wraps up his rallies, his campaigns, he needs to do something about that and address the women?
Well, first of all, let me dispel the notion that there hasn't been an active role executed by women within the MDC alliance. I think women have been given, a fair share of space in the political trajectory within the party. They have been given leading roles. They have been on the ground campaigning. And let's not forget that the focus of the presidential campaign is on the president himself, because at the end of the day, we are garnering votes for the president and the respective member of parliament in the various constituencies. President Emerson Mnangagwa's call for women to submit, their grievances and the like. I think for me, I would say it's a little too late, because focus on the plight of women should have been given by the president or by President Emerson Mnangagwa over, the past couple of months that he was president. That's when he should really have given sincere focus on their plight. And Nelson Chamisa, yes, tomorrow is going to be about Zimbabwe. Tomorrow is going to be about his final message to the people of Zimbabwe. And I can guarantee you that there's going to be serious commitments. There's going to be, undertakings with regards to the preservation of the rights of women and also the emancipation of the girl child in general.
Acie, do you think that this is an ace up ED's sleeve when he makes special mention of women?
So, tomorrow concludes what the candidates have been doing, and perhaps highlights also what they haven't been able to do. And I think President Emerson Mnangagwa has been very good at sticking at a progressive developmental agenda. That's all he's done. He's kind of spoken about, let's get back to business, let's make sure everybody's involved, let's fix the errors of the past. But what I think he's doing tomorrow with the stroke of going to women is not necessarily that he wants to do it last. I think he would have done it at any given point, but the man has got such a demanding schedule. I mean, he literally just landed from South Africa. He's got to close the bigger campaign tomorrow. He has to deal with the women's meeting, amongst 6 other meetings he has tomorrow, by the way. So it's generally taxing. I am almost sure that President Chamisa has meetings with smaller groups outside of the big meetings we see on the social media too. I'm sure he's got meetings with smaller groups. What I think, where my big ace up the sleeve is tomorrow, I hope from MDC, is I hope to hear President Chamisa or to see President Chamisa announce a female vice president. I would like to see that. Now, of course, it's not my prerogative, no ours, but if I had to put an expectation as far as women and MDC is concerned, what a beautiful moment it would be for President Chamisa to get up there and show the country that as we turn the page to go into a new dispensation led by MDC, he cares enough about women to rise them up to a level which is maybe not equal to his, but at least level them up. Bring a woman to a position where we can start seeing a vice president in MDC, or maybe give us a cabinet. Give us something that's not the Chamisa show. We have all seen Chamisa. I like Chamisa. I've always said that. We've all seen him. I would really like to see Chamisa elevate his argument to being beyond him, the individual, and he can display some women. What would I like to see ED as his ace up his sleeve? I would like to see the ace up ED sleeve to be humility and grace. I think ED knows he's going to win. I don't know if he knows how, but I don't know if we know how, but I think we all know ED is going to be announced as the winner by 72%. I'm absolutely sure we're playing somewhere up there. I would like to see him remain calm, remain steady, and win with grace. But my expectation tomorrow is not so much an ED. I actually am more excited and interested in seeing how Chamisa closes out.
We have had several polls on social media and on other platforms. Again, we've had the Afrobarometer saying that some polls are saying it's 42-37, 42% to ED, 37% to Nelson Chamisa, meaning generally it's a very tight race. Okay, some have said 72%. And what's your take, agency? Which one do you think is closer to the truth? Okay, after the American election, we know that polls can be completely wrong. But in this case, which one do you think speaks the truth or speaks into our future?
Well, polls are a direct result of analysis, scientific analysis, and also a bit of artificial intelligence that is used to analyze the mood of the general public towards particularly this election. And you've had the Afrobarometer come in indicating at one point that Emmerson Mnangagwa was going to win with a landslide. And recently there has been a drop even in favor of Nelson Chamisa, with Nelson Chamisa picking up on the polls. I wouldn't want to say that they are a direct reflection of the mood of the people on the ground. I would want to say that there are certain methods and areas that are covered by these polls that sometimes can be manipulated by people who basically have the skills and the know-how in the digital marketing world. But what we know and what we feel on the ground is that the mood is generally towards change. The mood on the ground is generally towards and in favor of President Nelson Chamisa, as is witnessed by the various rallies that he has held across the country. Because remember, Nelson Chamisa, unlike Emmerson Mnangagwa, had very minimal time to sell his agenda to the world, to sell his agenda to the country. And as such, he had to be in touch directly with the mood of the people, which is why he had to go to all corners of Zimbabwe, addressing rallies, meeting villagers, meeting community leaders, meeting church leaders, so as to read the mood of the people and also so as to identify himself with the needs and the vision of the people of Zimbabwe. So what he's going to deliver tomorrow is really a close. It's going to be a summation of the mood of the people of Zimbabwe. So if there is any poll that I would want us to consider is the poll that transpires tomorrow between Robert Mugabe Square and National Sports Stadium.
You see, what's your take on these polls? And feel free to disagree, gentlemen. Feel free to disagree.
So by the way, we are very happy and comfortable to disagree when there is a point of disagreement. We just haven't gotten to it yet. I don't think polls are necessarily an actual method to give you an accurate reflection of what's going to turn out, but they help you gauge the temperature. One of the things we have been doing here, and I'm sure the audience knows, is we're actually running our own polls. So we deployed about 210 students today who are all across the country. We'll be running the poll with them, the exit polls up until election, so that on election day we'll be able to give out the polls, because even we want to know what do the polls say. However, I want to speak to the figures of these polls. So you have polls that have varied from giving ED a high margin to lowering it to high margin. And I think that's a reflection of what's happening with the electorate. Because there are days when Chamisa performs well. So what happens when he performs well, and that's why you see polls are taken over and over again. Sometimes they take polls in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. So Chamisa does a move, and the polls all of a sudden swell in his favor. ED does a move, the polls all of a sudden swell in his favor. So I think there is validity to a poll that suggests that Chamisa can go from a 22% deficit and comes up to almost leveling up within 3 to 4 points. I believe that because I think there are moments where Chamisa has outperformed ED. However, there are also moments when ED has outperformed Chamisa, and that's why the polls have swelled, but they are not conclusive. They are reflective of the moment the poll was taken. So agency is right. Tomorrow will be another poll. Depending on how Chamisa does, it could swell in his favor. Depending on how ED does, it could swell in his favor. And this is why I don't understand when MDC comes out and says it doesn't matter what happens on election day. We've won anyway. So, as nabaza urmazo vote ere, hamna vote ere, tango wina udara, because surely you have to allow the mood of the day to carry it. And I'm glad that they flip-flopped again and allowed for the election to now go on with their indulgence.
I want to focus on the messages that have, or rather the strategies. President Emmerson Mnangagwa, much as he has campaigned, he has carried on with this business as usual. He has been working. We have seen him doing groundbreaking ceremonies, so many, and with a main focus on business and on mining. Today, he was at the BRICS meeting in South Africa, and we saw pictures of him with Vladimir Putin. Do you think that his focus on business and getting work done and not being on the road as much as Nelson Chamisa, who has had 80 rallies, will have an impact on who votes for him? Do you think that people would have been as concerned with wanting to see him, visuals of him, more than seeing him with business partners and talking business and talking about taking the country forward?
I think President Emmerson Mnangagwa has done the right thing. He has spread out his assets. He has delegated responsibilities. So ZANU-PF rallies have been happening just as much as MDC rallies have been happening. It's just that it's not ED rallies that have been happening a lot. Understand that President Emmerson Mnangagwa is coming from a background where the president of the country would literally put the whole government on standstill if he was going to a meeting, a rally, or even just to have a hangout. Everybody had to stop. If the president was leaving the country, the whole cabinet had to go and stand in a queue to say goodbye to the president at the airport. If the president was having a rally, from his wife to his wife's friends, to his relatives, to the relatives' friends, to the cabinet and the cabinet's friends, everybody had to attend rallies. If you look at all of ED's rally, there's not a single rally where the full cabinet has been in place, where even half of the cabinet has been in place. Because ED understands that while you are going to an election and it's election season, the country has to run. He mentioned it in his inaugural speech. We're 15 years behind. We have to catch up and overtake. Even if Nelson Chamisa was to win, there is a sense of dignity and respect you've got to give to the former president who didn't decide to utilize time he should have been fixing the country, or at least trying to fix his country to the best of his ability. He didn't utilize that time to campaign. He utilized that time to get the government business done. So, no, I think the president has done the right thing. I don't think it will cost him. I think the party is big enough to spread out. I understand why Chamisa was doing what he was doing, because Chamisa has had a bigger gap to close. If you're looking at it numerically, Chamisa took a party that had won, that had lost by over 1 million votes in the previous election. He had more work to do, so he's got ground to close. The same way ED is trying to close the ground of development, Chamisa is trying to close the ground politically. Both will be judged on election day, I hope, but I think both candidates have thrown everything they could. ED was doing the right thing going away today to the BRICS, because the business of government has to continue. It would be irresponsible for you to leave the business of government because it's election season. Besides, he's got great assets to deploy, and I think he's been doing that. So we'll find out in 2 days' time how it plays out.
Agency, do you think that the President Emmerson Mnangagwa, going on with business, and Chamisa, on the other hand, being on the ground, having so many rallies, do you think it was an opportunity for Chamisa, Or do you think that perhaps it also shows that Chamisa needs to do more work as far as showing who his prospective business partners are going to be? Because right now we're seeing everybody coming on board. We're seeing the Russians, we're seeing all these mines opening up. As far as business is concerned, do you think that Chamisa should have spoken a little bit more about it? Or do you think it's okay the way it is at the moment?
Well, my comment on President Emerson Mnangagwa's strategy will come in a two-pronged approach. Number one, President Emerson Mnangagwa realizes that there is no message that he will possibly tell the people of Zimbabwe through a rally that they will be convinced with. He realizes that the people of Zimbabwe treat him with a pinch of salt. They doubt his sincerity in restoring Zimbabwe to functionality. And as such, he has made a deliberate attempt or a deliberate decision to be a man who campaigns with his action. So what he's trying to do now is to dispel a notion in Zimbabweans' minds that, there's no sincerity in his commitment to development. But at the same time, I would say that he is a desperate man. Unozoa ukapiwa ngoma kana wakuzati muridzi wengoma akuuya unoitikitidza zvakasimba kuridza zvekuti muridzi wacho akasvika nochera kuti kushamwa wangoda kudambura ngoma yangu here. He's a man who knows that he doesn't have much time. He's a man who is looking for a safe exit plan. He's a man who's also looking for a dignified exit, like my brother Acie Lumumba here, intimated to. So I think also he realizes that he cannot measure up or compare with Nelson Chamisa's charisma. He cannot compare to Nelson Chamisa's charisma, so he would not at any point want to contest Nelson Chamisa panyadze marali. Nana SB, because he knew then that the comparison between Chiwenga or SB, the comparison that Chamisa will be unfair even to the public. Nelson Chamisa, on the other hand, his commitments have basically been an alternative to ZANU-PF's policies. His commitments have basically been, the introduction of a new vision for Zimbabwe. So I would say that for any reasoning businessman or for any, strategic businessman, what they look at is the next plan. What they look at is the alternative plan. Because remember, Zimbabwe has been an independent country for over 38 years. And as such, any person who wants to invest in Zimbabwe will have to look, business, and they look at risk. And also they look at the possibility of making profit. So President Nelson Chamisa has basically laid down a message, not just to investors from outside Zimbabwe, but also to business people and entrepreneurs within Zimbabwe, to say what we are going to build is a conducive environment for you to do your business. And he had to carry this message to the people of Zimbabwe. He is a man who, through actions, showed that he can deliver when he's in government, when he was the minister of ICTs. And now what he's saying is, now give me the mandate to run the entire government. And then this is what I will do. So he had to go out to the people and give them this message, as opposed to President Emerson Mnangagwa, who he had to convince the people of Zimbabwe through his actions, following up on the commitments he made when he was inaugurated as president of Zimbabwe.
We saw other political leaders endorsing, like Dumiso Dabengwa, endorsing Nelson Chamisa. Do you think that we should have had some business leaders, business people standing by him openly and saying, if you vote for him, we will be helping this government, his government, as far as business and taking the economy forward?
Well, you need to understand something about people who do business. People who do business are very careful about their sentiments, particularly with regards to politics, because they would want to do business in the country regardless of who wins the election. If there's a businessman who owns a mine in Zimbabwe, they will probably not want to publicly make comments in support of either ED or in support of Nelson Chamisa, because they are not very sure of the outcome of the election. But rather what they do is that privately, because these are businessmen, privately, they have certain concessions that they make with these political leaders. And these concessions are based on the promises that are being laid down by the political leaders, which is why you realize also that, these very same people that met President Emerson Mnangagwa from the business community are the very same people that met Nelson Chamisa in a meeting. Why? Because they want to have a feel of what each candidate can bring and what each candidate can deliver for the people of Zimbabwe.
I don't know one businessman who has gone to meet with ED, who has then seconded and gone and met with Nelson Chamisa. Here always comes the challenge with agency. I don't know where he gets these things from. And I'm glad we're alive so we can run the test. Which businessman who is regarded anywhere who has come into this country has said, I went and I met ED. When I finished meeting ED, I went and I met Nelson Chamisa. Which one? But more, worse off than that is, you must understand, there are business people who are not affiliated to ZANU-PF, in fact have been agents of disagreement with ZANU-PF, who have now started standing with ZANU-PF. For example, one of the biggest media names in this country is Trevor Ncube, the man who runs Alpha Media Holdings. He runs, I think, the most profitable media entity in this country. This is a man who has sponsored millions of dollars into MDC. He has given millions of dollars into Morgan Tsvangirai, where Morgan Tsvangirai acknowledged, Trevor Ncube acknowledged. It's the same Trevor Ncube who's now taken a step back and says, for everything I know about business, I can tell you two things. Number one, Chamisa is not good for business. Number two, Chamisa could not care less about integrating everybody. I'll give you another example. One of the biggest franchise kings in this country is Shingi Munyeza. Shingi Munyeza has been very anti-government for a long time. In fact, during the Robert Mugabe era, it was Shingi Munyeza who started the series of The Watchman. He would continuously come and speak biblically about what was wrong about the time we were in, but he would also speak in terms of business on what did we need to do to move forward. Even he has gone on to reprimand MDC for their distaste or lack of understanding of business. MDC. If you think they don't think they know it all, if you think they don't think they know it all, you tell me, who is the Minister of Business incoming from MDC? Who is the shadow minister from MDC on business? Chamisa would like to enter government as a solo man. He has never said anything about appointing vice presidents. Can you imagine? We are going to an election. Tomorrow is the last day of campaigning. And Nelson Chamisa has done nothing about appointing a cabinet, nothing about appointing vice presidents. Why is it a surprise? Does he want to rule the country by himself? This is the only time I start differing with who is a better attraction to business or not. I run a business, and I can tell you, politics sometimes is not good for business. In fact, I am probably the highest paid in my line of work. But I can tell you sometimes it's not very good to align yourself with any, because but even I can tell you, I have not seen the sign of seriousness coming from MDC about how they want to level the field. They just know it all. They don't even consult. MDC doesn't even say, let me consult the business community. When Chamisa went to London, one of the biggest critics he got from the former advisor to the Prime Minister Tsvangirai, Alex Magaisa. Alex Magaisa said, Nelson Chamisa comes into the UK. He doesn't even bother to say, can I meet the business people in the UK who are from Zimbabwe so that you guys can tell me how to design my business policy. He got to the UK and he told them what his business policy was. This man is not good for business. Come on now. He's a guy who likes to go out, make the crowd clap their hands. He's like a preacher or like a clown or something. But he's not business. And Chamisa, come on, man.
Agency, what's your response to that?
Well, I would say those are outrageous allegations and those are outrageous submissions, particularly with regards to the agenda that the president has announced for the business community. You see, Zimbabwe's economy is an ailing economy. You need not be a rocket scientist to know that and to understand that. You need to not be a sophisticated professor of economics to understand that the economy doesn't work. grade 3 child knows the economy doesn't work, because anozoti ndikapuwa dollar na baba wangu ndikaenda uko, it will not deliver the same results that a dollar delivers in any other jurisdiction with a functioning economy. So the president, Nelson Chamisa, has come up with an alternative as to how to fix this particular economy, and he has addressed it with an intimation that, number one, we had to do something with the policy framework of our country. We had to do something with restoring confidence in how we did business. We had to do something about restoring property rights, because any person who wants to come and put money in the country, any person who wants to do business in the country understands this one thing, that I've got to know that my profits are secure and my profits are protected. So to then insinuate also that President Nelson Chamisa has not engaged business people, simply because you then throw in a couple of names.
Name me one he's engaged.
You see,
Name me one he has engaged.
President Nelson Chamisa, in all the 80 rallies that he has done, in all the 80 rallies that President Nelson Chamisa has done, his first point of order when he gets into a place is to meet with various stakeholders in that particular province or that particular place. So he meets with church leaders, he meets with business people, he meets with vendors. Before rally, it also is a culmination of all these particular meetings that he holds with various groups. So he has met business people around. So I'm not at liberty to throw in names. I'm not at liberty to throw in names for obvious reasons. Like I mentioned earlier, that certain business people, big as they are not very comfortable with being aligned publicly with a political leader for reasons known to all of us. Business and politics sometimes don't go in hand to hand. So now, I would want to dispel the notion that President Nelson Chamisa has not addressed business people. When he went to London, you see, MDC is a workers' party. MDC is a party that was formed by people who needed an alternative to the economy of Zimbabwe. Business people overseas, there's a reason why they are overseas, and there's a reason why President Nelson Chamisa went to meet people overseas, Zimbabweans in the diaspora. It's because he understood that these are the very same minds and these are the very same tools that were necessary for developing Zimbabwe. So that's why he was going out there to reach out to them to say, Zokai kumusha tivake nyika yedu. But now I'll guarantee you that I'll create an environment that allows you to do your business, that allows you to prosper in whatever endeavor you may desire.
Which business people who are aligned to the opposition? So let's forget the ones aligned to government. So let's actually just say business people aligned to the opposition who are revered or who matter. I've raised names of the ones we most know who have always been anti-Robert Mugabe or anti-ZANU-PF. Name me one who used to be allowed anti-Robert Mugabe, who has still come out and have said, I support, don't even worry about the ones in Zimbabwe, even the ones from out of Zimbabwe. I'll give you examples of people who used to support MDC. Within MDC, one of the biggest funders of MDC was the former treasurer of MDC, help me with the name please, from Blawayo?
Roy Bennett.
Roy Bennett. You have Roy Bennett, okay, who was an instrumental financier of MDC, coming out, God rest his soul of course, coming out and saying, this is madness. We cannot be led into business by this party. One of the finest business people that MDC has produced internally is the guy who now left MDC, who they fired out or left MDC, Mudzuri. One of the finest, not Mudzuri, sorry, what's his name? The presidential code guy, Elton Mangoma. Great businessman, runs very successful business. Even he said MDC is terrible for business. So tell me which one person said MDC is good for business.
Agency, type one.
Just one.
So look.
Just one.
I am not unlike Acie here, I'm not a troublemonger. And like I indicated before that, I have names that I can throw in.
Throw one.
But
even initials.
For the purposes,
even say AB.
AB. But for the purposes of protecting the integrity of these businessmen, I will not make mention of them. There's a reason why even the meetings that these people had with the president were never an issue for public consumption. Because there are certain individuals who have said to the president, we want to talk to you and we want to hear what you are offering. And if the president himself did not find it fit to expose to the public these names, Who am I to do so?
So is that why you're keeping the cabinet a secret too? Because you want to protect the cabinet from people knowing that these are the people who are going to come and run our country? Is that why you haven't told us who the potential cabinet is? Or at least the potential vice president? Are you also keeping that a secret? Because if you tell Zimbabweans, then it might not be politically safe. I mean, these are people in the political fray. Tell me who is going to help Nelson Chamisa lead?
Look,
I'm not even saying I like them or I don't like them. Just tell me who.
MDC, the MDC Alliance, the people know the MDC Alliance Brazil, yakakwana. Mazwai Tambabora, Mazwana, Ronaldo, and Chichi. It's an all-star team. People know there's a history of service delivery with the people that are leading MDC now. When is the president going to announce cabinet? The president will announce cabinet when he sees it fit to announce the cabinet.
Imagine that.
The president understands the skill sets that are with his team. The team he has introduced to the public. There's not been any hide and seek as to who is President Chamisa's team. The team is quite clear. The team is out there. So you see, this is where you should appreciate the difference between ZANU-PF politics and MDC politics. Because MDC politics is about competence. MDC politics is about the ability to deliver that which you are mandated to deliver. ZANU-PF politics, on the other hand, is about titles and entitlement. It's about positions and what comes with the position. So President Nelson Chamisa has been clear to say, I'll go to the people, which is what he has been doing in all the rallies, and consult and hear what their views are with regards who the best people for the job are. Because, I mean, he's got a brilliant team. I can tell you right now, President Nelson Chamisa has a brilliant team.
I just don't,
Star Ega.
and I cannot for the life of me remotely understand what the hell he is talking about. Because when you say he's got a brilliant team, he has announced his team, and yet if I ask anybody who's watching right now, can somebody here tell me who is the vice president of Nelson Chamisa? Who is the second vice president? I mean, goodness me. Who is the least important in the cabinet? When you say the team is an all-star team, how do you call it an all-star team when you have Agrippa Mutambara, who is on record both from himself and from Trudy Stevenson and the white women who he raped? You have a rapist, a serial rapist, as one of the alliance leaders, and you call that an all-star team. But you know what worries me more? How do you call it an all-star team when there is no woman in the principals? How do you call it an all-star team when there's no young person in the principals? How do you call it an all-star team when you don't have anybody in those principals who can accredit serious votes to your president? Now, I think your president is an all-star. I think you're an all-star agency. So the notion that you tell me that your position is fine and Agrippa's position is fine too, and you think those two are okay, man, when are we going to see you go up there, buddy?
So first of all, he makes mention of Agrippa Mutambara, who I would want to liken to Saul, who had a Damascus moment and was converted to Paul and then started serving the divine cause of repenting the Gentiles. ZANU-PF as an entire system is evil. I will not make mention of individuals because
so but Agrippa is okay now.
I will not make mention of names, but I will make mention of a system because
who has a record of raping
there is not more evil than a system that deprives a pregnant mother from a safe birth. There is no system on individual that is more evil than a regime that oppresses its own people, that has got no regards for human rights, that have got no regards for basic economic and property rights, that have got no regards for the economic emancipation of its own people. There's no evil that surpasses that. Talk of gruesome acts that were committed by individuals. Come on, I would go this entire show throwing in names from ZANU-PF, Vapana president wacho zvichidzika.
Who has
But
a
now,
record of raping?
So
Who has
let me
of
proceed.
raping?
Let me also then proceed to say, Acie Lumumba seems to not understand how the MDC alliance came to be. The principals were never chosen to be principals. Principals are principals because they came in representing a particular political party that understood that there was need for a general consensus in removing
what party
the
does
ZANU-PF
Agrippa
regime.
represent?
So
what
now
party
to
does
then
Agrippa
want
represent?
to say, why is there no youth? Why is there no woman among the principals? I'll tell you, the answer to that. It's because when the call for a coalition was made, Mime Juru was there. Mime Juru even came and signed the coalition agreement, and later on then went to sign a coalition agreement with another, with other principals.
Why did she do that?
So,
why did she do that?
well, the reasons as to why she did that
she
are
told
better
us the
known.
reasons.
Are better known to herself. Because it was probably stark differences in policy.
What party does Agrippa Mtambara come from?
Differences in strategy.
What party does Agrippa Mtambara come from?
The principles that you see presented by the MDC alliance are where they are today because they came in representing a particular political party that wanted to get into a coalition
what
against
party does Agrippa Mtambara come from?
Once again, we have two gentlemen in studio with very divergent views. We wanted hearts for agency, if you agreed with him, and likes for Acie Lumumba. Please carry on just pressing the like button or the hearts button. Gentlemen, before we go, we have seen more observers coming into the country. We have seen a relative peace during this election period. Tomorrow with the two rallies in Harare, do you think that there's cause for concern, or do you think that our people have matured?
I think they've matured. I think this is an example of it, where sometimes we can really disagree to the point where agents but yet we live out of here and we hang out and we chill with each other. I think this is exactly what happens even on the street. Just because we disagree doesn't mean we're disagreeable. Just because we disagree doesn't mean we hate each other. My disagreement with Chamisa doesn't mean I hate Chamisa. He's actually my brother. So no, I don't think there'll be any violence. I think we'll kumbaya, chit-chat with each other as we go our separate ways. And I hope that anybody who's thinking about violence will be discouraged by those who are participating.
Agency, do you see everyone being democratic tomorrow and being friends even after the two different rallies between the MDC and ZANU-PF?
Well, one thing is for sure. Tomorrow Harare is going to be a hot zone. You have two major rallies, ZANU-PF and MDC. So you are guaranteed, Kuti, when you get into town tomorrow, there's going to be red T-shirts versus yellow and green T-shirts. That's what we're going to see. And my hope really is that both political leaders come out to denounce violence because there is a propensity of an explosion within Harare tomorrow. But the people of Zimbabwe so far have shown a commitment to a democratic process. They've shown a commitment to a violent-free election. Though there have been mentions and, sides of Akuzoshaiko Mapenzi. Ariko here and there, we have had violence reported. But I hope also the police and law enforcement agencies are on high alert to ensure that they, dissuade any form of violence tomorrow, either verbal violence or physical violence.
You've been watching the election playbook. It's just 3 days before the elections, and tomorrow, that's when all the election campaigning is wrapped up, and it's going to be Chinenge Chakachaya Muharare. So we'll be seeing red T-shirts, yellow T-shirts, but we preach that may we be a mature people and there be no violence in our country. Until tomorrow, we will be back again in studio to discuss the election playfield. Whether you are Team Agency or Team Lumumba, Team ZANU-PF or Team MDC Alliance, please keep in touch with us. We want to hear from you. Continue to send your comments, your contributions. Until tomorrow, I say good night. My name is Rudo Gunduza.